Sometimes they say.
The Corps of Engineers, that's not their
Sometimes happens.
jurisdiction within their boundary there, so they have to.
They. I mean, for what?
They took longer than
Okay, Monica, we have,
Oh, we have 7 o'clock. Okay, all right. Let's call the meeting to order. Beth, would you do the roll call, please?
John Manville,
Here.
Mike Burke,
Here.
Sandra Gerlach,
Here.
Tom Stewart,
Yes.
Monica McHugh,
Here.
Marita Key. Here. Christine Pop, here.
We have a forum. Do I have a motion on last month's meeting minutes? Were there any corrections or additions that needed to be made?
If I may,
Yes.
as we counted the amount of people that were in attendance from last month's meeting, we feel that maybe not everybody signed in. And, we knew we set up for 30 chairs. And,
We had much more than that, Joan.
and we know we had some other chairs that were brought in, and then there was people standing in the hallway. So if we want to show that there was probably additional people
Yes.
that were there that did not maybe sign in, just make a note to that, even though I wouldn't be able to list any names.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't know them.
Let's make an addition that there were additional people in attendance that did not sign in the minutes. Is there any other additions or corrections?
Can we use the word likely didn't sign in?
Likely to,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I move we approve these minutes with the corrections.
A second.
I have a motion from Tom and a second from Mary. All in favor of approval of the last month's meetings with the correction?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Let's move on to the ZC 24-01 public hearing for the consideration and recommendation of the preliminary plat for a 6-lot subdivision in Bellevue. This is, so we're opening a public hearing on, this is only for the updated zoning. So we will not have any other comments on any other topics tonight. Laura, you want to go ahead and go through this? We approved this once. And we had an issue where the Army Corps of Engineers did not approve the request within the 12-month period, which requires us to approve the same application that was approved March of 2023, correct?
Yes, I was just trying to look to see where the letter was from the Corps of Engineers. Shoot. Justin, that was dated in June, right? This year. Yeah, so basically that was a long process. You guys had voted to approve the preliminary subdivision survey for plat, and it took 15 months for the Corps of Engineer to finish its part of it. And I hated to have Mr. Elvin start from scratch again. But that's the way our ordinance is written, and I did seek the advice of our assistant county attorney, and he agreed we had to start the process over. As you can see in your packet, I did get a letter from Jaden, our county engineer, and he has approved the drainage calcs and the drainage pattern, and certified that the new tube that they placed with the existing tube, right, Justin, is adequate for the drainage and runoff. So, and we might have some other people here that wanted to speak, and Mr. Alden's here.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, his, whenever you're ready for that part of it, his, engineer is also online.
Okay. All right. So do you want to pull up the, I think probably the easiest one to look at, is the beacon site for the, where you have the plat laid out with all of the,
Oh, on the, excuse me, the.
Yeah.
In the packet.
Yeah.
I was ready to pull up the beacon site for you.
oh, sorry,
That's okay.
the one in the packet.
That's okay. Is that's towards the back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right there.
there we go.
So this is the zoning layer that we're showing, and you can see the long skinny lot right here, which is the lot that we're looking at. It's already zoned R1. Mr. Alden is looking to add a 6 parcel residential subdivision in this location. It is currently being served by, community water, which it had not been served by community water, in March of 2023. That was something that new that was added. He'll still need to do private sewer.
Yeah.
But, because, sewer is not available in that area yet.
What-
The lots do meet the minimum 20,000 square feet with the 200-foot frontage for our flooding limits.
I can't remember the sewer system. Was the city of Bellevue gonna run sewer out there as well?
No, I don't believe that's part of the plan at this time. I don't think sewer went past, offshore.
Okay,
So remind me here, are we talking about just this one rectangle
Yes.
piece?
mhm.
Okay, and how many lots was that gonna be divided into?
6.
6, okay.
And I have his plat up here too. Well, you guys have the,
Yeah,
pull
we
out.
got-
You
we
got
got the-
the
yeah,
big
got the big-
plat.
yeah. Yeah, because the.
Oh, there we
larger
go.
than the
Yeah,
rest.
okay, there we go. Now I see it.
So I think. Mr. Alden, would you like to say any comments?
I believe this engineer's here, if you want to hear from him. I see he's online, and I do see some of his neighbors.
Okay,
If, you want me to, if you want to address them or.
yeah, if we want to, if there are any neighbors that would like to speak concerning the subdivision,
Mary Ann, did you have anything and want to unmute?
I have nothing.
Mary Ann, is there anything that you'd like to address the board with?
No. Did you hear it? I don't know what to do here.
It says she's talking. We're not pulling up her audio. Mary Ann, I'm assuming you can hear me. Can you give us a call, on 563-221-1382, please? 563-221-1382.
Let's see. Yeah, Not that quick here, dear. Can you hear me now, Lori?
While we're doing that,
I can
can
hear
we call
her.
any, can we call Jeremy?
Yes.
All
I
right.
think so.
So Jeremy, do you want to unmute and we'll try to see if you have capabilities to talk?
Yep, can you hear me right now? Hello? I can hear everybody.
I don't think he.
Yeah. Let's see here. I can hear you. Let's see.
I can hear you,
Yep,
but I can't get to them.
okay.
Um, and I don't remember the number. I wasn't fast enough to write it down.
Same here.
Okay, is this Jeremy?
Yep,
Okay, go ahead.
okay, so you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I could hear Anita too just fine before.
Oh, I haven't been able to hear anyone, but
Okay.
we figured it out.
Okay,
Ask
perfect.
her to rewrite the number.
Okay, Mary Ann, we'll come right back to you if that's okay. Let's
Oh,
go
okay.
ahead and we'll get Jeremy and then go back if that's your desire.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay, there's really no comments from me. Nothing has changed on this preliminary plat since the previous time that it went through this process, other than that 15-inch pipe like you had addressed earlier.
Okay. Mary Ann, or excuse me, Monica's,
Oh, yep.
the board chair's
Yeah.
understanding. Okay, I thank you. I'm gonna mute you again, okay?
Okay,
All right, Mary Ann?
I have nothing.
Okay, she has nothing. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Anybody else, that's with, that needed to speak on the subdivision plat in, the Spruce Creek area? Okay.
Yeah, somebody's trying, looks like Anita's trying to speak.
That's been doing that all along,
Okay,
but Jeremy was trying, he was hearing something.
yeah.
Anita, if you were trying to speak, do you want to call the office cell number 563-221-1382? I'm not convinced. I bet that was for this case.
Okay.
We wanna take one last,
Yeah, is there anybody else that would like to speak on the rezoning,
the subdivision plat.
the subdivision plat? All right, if not, does the board have any discussion on this? Any other? If not, I will ask for a motion to approve.
Need to push it.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot. No, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Do I have a motion to approve and send to the supervisors the subdivision for the Alden subdivision.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
Mike and Mary, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Alden. I appreciate it. And sorry for all the trouble. I wish we could have made the Corps of Engineers move a little faster.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. On to the work session. All right,
All right, so I've made notes for you guys, on what we talked about last month and then some of the, items within the draft. Went ahead and just highlighted some of the things in red, that we had, concerns about. So do we just want to start at the beginning? or-
yeah, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
We'll
And-
look at- I know.
Again.
Again, I know, it's okay, it's okay. Um. All right, so. And I don't know if you wanna leave this first part to the very end. This has been original language since we started. This was part of the original language that was in the Delaware County ordinance that the Board of Supervisors originally presented to the zoning commission. You know, as a template. And what I had put in red was while facilitating economic opportunities for rural residents and promoting the goal of increased energy production from renewable energy sources, which was part of that original language. Depending on where you guys go tonight with this, I don't know that that is where we're heading, and I think that the original, there's been a shift in potentially in the way people are thinking. And if this, if what you guys are gonna work on contradicts that, we need to potentially take that out. Cause I know some of the things that are already in place already say that that's not where we're going with our ordinance. So it's just one of the things like, you know, it was there originally, it's been that original language since you started on this, but I don't think
Does- Doesn't seem to apply, right?
I don't think it applies.
Because
feel
it's a-
that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a land use permit, I mean, or a land use. Do we put that in all of our land use zoning changes?
I mean, is it part of our ordinance?
Yeah, I mean, is that, I don't think we have in any of the other ordinances that we put in.
Not our current ones.
Yeah.
But then again, we're looking to rewrite some of those, but I don't think that's. I mean, that could always. Struck. And, just strike out all the stuff in red and put a period after welfare. Some of the, I'm sorry.
I think that makes sense.
One of the things though, I sent you an email from one gentleman that had ripped apart the ordinance. And one of the things that he had pointed out that some of the terms are subjective, comfort is subjective, so should that word even be in there?
Well, to get this ball rolling, I would move that we just strike that sentence or that statement in red.
Okay,
Yeah. All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from the board on what is in red? Does anybody have any other comments?
So are we gonna strike what's in red or are we gonna strike? Starting from in addition?
The motion was to strike red.
Okay.
No other discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor of striking what is in red?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so We'll go ahead and strike what is in red.
Did someone want to make a friendly amendment to start with in addition?
I will.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. You want to strike that sentence? Chris?
Starting with in addition through welfare. And pick it up again with the requirements in this ordinance.
All right, I have a motion to strike the rest of the sentence. Do I have a second on that?
So just. I'll make the second, just so we can just-
Okay, all right, so any more discussion on that?
So we're just eliminating that whole sentence. Is what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yeah.
You're striking before in addition, not after in addition. You started that
Starting with. in
You're striking
addition.
that.
Starting from
from
in
the
addition
period.
through the red, just because like Lori was saying, from where we're going with this, that doesn't make sense.
So you're gonna go from the period after markets to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
requirements. Okay. Just make
To,
sure.
to
Okay.
all the way. through
Now I
sources.
understand what you're.
Any other comments on that?
Not sure if that's necessary, but
I think it, to me, it contradicts some of the things that are already in the draft,
okay, I get it.
because the 400-foot,
Okay.
Any other comments? Come on, I know what I am.
No. That's, we're.
Well, but in this statement here, we're just talking about all wind energy conversion systems, not just commercial. So shouldn't something be left in there for the non-commercial?
it,
In this whole statement for the purpose, we're talking about all wind energy conversion systems. We're not saying commercial, or we're not saying non-commercial. So to me, all that should probably be left in, and I know I coming after the fact that we already took it out, but if you're doing a non-commercial one, all that makes sense.
the economic opportunities, not so much.
Well, it is for the person putting it out,
For the private one,
for the private
that's why
one.
they're putting it up.
It's an economic opportunity for a rural resident. And it's promoting the goal of an increasing energy production from renewable energy sources for that particular person.
Without being utility scale.
I can see though where by striking that, then you read the first. Sentence there, and then you tag it onto the. Last few sentences, and it's more. To the point, and it's not as subjective. I mean. I can see taking that all out at this point.
If it was private.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
I
take,
just see it.
it doesn't take away,
away, yeah, right,
it doesn't take away.
yeah. I just don't see where it's necessary. I mean, if we can get by without that.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true.
All right,
Wait a minute, does anybody have, or do you have anything else to add on that?
you guys already voted then.
No, we haven't.
Oh,
Not on this
apologize.
part.
No,
The-
the
the
No, we have a
red part
motion and a
is-
second, yeah, we have that.
excuse me, that hasn't gone anywhere. I'm sorry, I'm just ready to rock this.
The red part is gone now at this point.
Right.
The first part of the sentence.
All right, I will call for a vote on removing the rest of that sentence, and in addition, the purpose of this ordinance shall be to promote the public health, safety, comfort, and general welfare. All in favor? Say aye. 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 Any opposed? All right, motion carried. So that sentence has been struck from the ordinance, the proposed ordinance. Okay.
Okay, so we don't need to read all the way through this?
No,
Line for line?
No,
Just address what
just
we-
address the changes.
Uh-huh.
All right, and just as we're getting into here, I did go ahead and I I'm gonna tell you, I got every last one of them. And cross my fingers that I did. So FAA, when we get to that point, we took out all the periods. We have capital F, capital AA.
Okay.
And the same thing with the 144 SQ, the symbol.
Okay,
So that should all be consistent throughout the ordinance. Still on page 1, a WEX of equal to or greater than 100/40 kilowatts in total nameplate generating capacity or greater than 100 feet in height. That was what the definition you guys chose to use for the commercial, the utility scale, anything greater than that generating capability or greater than 100 feet.
So I got a question. I had the time and I ran out to, Mike's Dunes, windmill. How tall?
100.
That is 100.
Yeah, I talked to him today, because he said he had some guy on his property and he didn't know who he was.
That was me. That'd be me.
I
I
figured
went in and
I
talked to the
would
girl.
find out.
I went in and talked to the girl and told her what I was doing, but he wasn't around.
Right, and she said he didn't leave his card, and he's with the county. I was like, he doesn't have one.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't say I was with a county. I said I was a zoning board.
Yeah.
subdivision.
Yeah, he didn't,
Yeah, but she did look confused. I knew that I
Yeah.
confused her. But I just went and I wanted to get a scale for his and listen to how much noise it made.
right, and that's what I told him, that I kind of leaned towards you, but I thought, yeah, maybe Mike,
Yeah, it's me.
not to leave you out, John. But,
She would have said the guy with crutches.
yeah.
yeah. But that one is 100 feet. One of the topics that he and I talked about when he did call today, he shopped around for the, for his type of turbine or tower. It is definitely not utility scale. However, there's people that live in valleys that require a taller tower to generate the same
And-
amount.
And that's what I was gonna say. If his is 100 to the tip of the blade, I'm assuming, then it's really not that tall for personal
Right.
use tower.
But if you guys know where I live, I'm down in a slough wall.
That's what I'm saying is
I
it,
would never be able to, I
right,
wouldn't get over the hill at 100 feet.
right. Yeah.
But, that made me think, about that 100 foot, but then again,
They could go to the Board of
they can go to
Adjustment,
the
could
Board
they?
of Adjustment. 165 feet would not be permitted by the Board of Adjustment. Because it would, unless they were looking for a variance. Cause the quantitative difference would be a 50% quantitative,
Mhm.
so
Where
they
did you
could go-
come up
they
with the
could-
165 there?
that's what we're just using what Mike had
He
said
had said that
about.
was,
Cause there are some, and they did talk about him going that high, and there's some up in Delhi that are 165 for the
Well-
personal, but. We wouldn't be able to approve that even through our Board of
then
Adjustment.
the question is do we want a private one? If we're restricting, and this is to the board, I'm looking at Lori. If we're restricting the industrial to 400 feet, do we really want a private one that's at 165? With a chance they get an adjustment on that, and then it could be over 200.
Right,
And then my answer to that would be, under those circumstances, no.
and then the generating capacity would, still keep the generating capacity to where it is, but. Yeah, cause our quantitative difference for a Board of Adjustment ask is 50%. So if somebody needed, somebody that lives in a Sioux Bowl, wanted that personal wind generating tower. They wouldn't be able to ask for anything over 149.5 feet, basically. They'd have to stay under 150 for the fact that'd be a 50% quantitative. So. But I hadn't thought about that until he brought that up. And it was something I know that we hadn't discussed, because we didn't know it was possible. So if you guys, I'm just throwing it out there, leaving it just like it is fine with me. Well, of course.
I think we should leave it at 100 feet.
But I just wanted to bring that
Yeah.
up since it was a recent conversation. So, I don't have it marked on here. One of the things we talked about, well, no, we chose to leave that, was the, that's just definition, never mind. All right, total height. I added the new language in there on page 3. Certainly, you'll have to stay on me.
Mike, that's your job tonight.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I was looking there, I wasn't looking at, yeah. Mike, your job tonight.
Okay.
You started it, so.
Okay, so I'll take out the note part, but we added the new language here for tower height. I threw the definition, or excuse me, the height into the, definition. Total height restriction of commercial. So that's the commercial utility scale, which shall be no greater than 400 feet, and that is total height. That's from ground to turbine tip.
Mhm.
Okay. We didn't really do anything. I wasn't asked to make any other changes on page 5 or 6. We get to page 7. Setbacks. Okay, this is where you guys started tabling until this meeting, so here we are.
Cause we couldn't think anymore.
Yeah. So some of them,
Some of the comments, some of the things that I've read, some of the comments that I've got. Is instead of doing it inhabited structures, looking at property lines or right of way lines. And I don't know. John. Start with you. What's your thoughts?
I'm gonna stick with my 2,000 feet, the property line. I've heard way too many comments. Negative comments at 1.1 times the height of the tower. So that's my suggestion. I'm not gonna say it's a motion at this time, but there should be some more discussion.
So instead of having it from the inhabited structures, we should change it to either property line or right of way line. That's your thoughts on that?
you can do both.
Yeah.
You can
Did you
have-
say increase the
Right.
distance?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, just talking about inhabited structures, because we have it, the setbacks from inhabited structures, but do
Oh,
we
yeah,
wanna
yeah.
take that out? And instead of doing inhabited structures from property line,
I would agree, property
from
line.
not owning property line.
I would also agree with property.
Yeah,
Yes, what?
I would agree with property line, and that's a shift for me, but I've been thinking about this a lot and doing some more reading myself, and property line is okay.
Like,
I would stay with inhabited structure, but everybody's gonna put a property line, so
you can,
I know I can, but yeah.
And if you're going property line, and let's say you guys decide to use John's 2,000, you know it's gonna be greater than 2,000 lineal feet from any structure.
Yeah.
And then you already know you have a 400-foot tower that they don't even manufacture.
yeah,
You said it's gonna be greater than 2,000.
Well,
We said it 2,000 should be.
From the property line,
property-
but
we haven't said
usually
that.
your houses aren't gonna be built right on your property line.
We haven't
Oh, yeah,
agreed
yeah,
on
yeah.
we
2,000
haven't
yet.
agreed on the
But if
2,000.
you, like I said, for
We're not-
example, if you
but-
use John's 2,000.
You're talking about distance from an uninhabited structure, two different things. you're talking about. Okay.
But right now, we're talking property line rather than
Inhabited
than
structure.
inhabited structure. We'll talk about how
Distance
far later, but yes, I've decided to go with the property line.
Right.
I still think it should be, but different, a distance from the inhabited structure.
It's fair.
So I just have a quick question. So let's just say I have property and right now I have room between the property line and my buildings, but if a turbine comes in on the other side and it says so many feet, I may not be able to build a building on my own property because I won't be far enough away.
That's why we're changing it to property.
Not necessarily, because if the turbine was built from the property line,
Right. But that's,
so it would make them non-compliant. However, there would be a grandfather clause so that,
but if it beat me, the turbine beat me to me wanting to build my building in the future, I would be restricted.
Not
no,
necessarily.
not necessarily,
Not
no.
Build it
necessarily.
within
Just
200
get back
feet.
in by being that close. If you build.
That's what I'm asking. Am I able to build whatever
Yes.
I want on my property, even though now I'm going to
Yes.
be
With,
closer than what our restrictions are?
But
yes,
then he'll be saying, okay, you're
It's-
volunteering for the consequences of whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Right,
Sandra, and that's why I
Yeah.
changed.
yes.
Yeah,
that's-
so it's to protect the neighbors' building rights, yes.
Right, and that's what I thought of later too, as I was thinking that after the last meeting.
Chris.
I wanna-
Sandra, do you have anything else to add?
I'm probably.
So do we? Can I get a motion to remove inhabited structures from the ordinance?
I'll move.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
A second.
And a second. For discussion, we have a motion to remove the setbacks from inhabited structures.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Why?
There's no-
because if we do it from the property lines,
You can do both.
we can,
How far, how close to?
Property line is gonna, or the structures are gonna be moved if you go to the property. line.
if you go to property line, it's,
Unless you have, well, I got one guy right now that wants a special exception to build 5 feet away from his property line.
but it's
you know,
still,
in
it's
summer.
still property line.
Yeah, okay,
And so.
but it's,
That again, he can still request that. Because that would be a board of adjustment, they can approve that.
right,
So again, he would have the consequences if a windmill, a turbine was built from the property line.
he'd still be 2,000 feet away from the property line,
Well,
well, 22,000.
We have not done that. But it's the distance from the property line.
Mhm.
So instead of allowing the wind turbine to be closer to, the existing structure. So if there's a wind turbine there and somebody wants to build, that is their right
Okay,
to build that. And they already know that that turbine is there.
okay, so an existing structure can be as close as 2,000 feet?
Yes,
Okay. All right, because that's why I was thinking
it's
we
the-
were looking to go further from a structure, a
But it-
dwelling.
well, but if we go from the property line, that distance, it is further than, a building.
Stop using 2,000 feet. We haven't
We have
decided
not
that.
decided,
I
yeah,
know.
that's
Oh,
not.
I was just using that as a,
So our current
Okay.
is like, what, 1250. Our current is 1250. So. You have it from 1250 from the property line already. Well, if he builds 5 feet, it's gonna be 1255.
Right.
That still is within there. So if we do it from the property line. It
He's
gives it
covered.
further away, it's covered.
right,
Than
still
than
just,
that.
okay. Okay,
So I have a motion and a second to remove the setbacks from inhabited structures. I'll take a vote, all in favor of removing this? Any opposed? All right, motion carried, so we're gonna remove inhabited structures and we'll move property lines to A.
So we're taking A completely
We're
out.
taking
Okay,
A
yep,
complete,
yep.
yep,
Because now the standard is property line.
line instead of standards.
Yep.
okay. So that would also, your right of way would also be the same, because typically you're gonna have a right of way within
Right, yeah,
that same distance, okay?
Communication and electric lines. Yeah, above ground, that was the other thing.
Yeah, the property line, yeah.
Oh, we have, sorry.
Well, we're still, yeah, we
You're
haven't,
right, sorry, John. Okay. Property lines, John,
I make the motion that, you change from, 1.1 times the height of the tower to 2,000 feet. From the tower, proposed tower to the property line.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And I have a second. Board discussion.
okay, this is where we're gonna diverge here now, because I've also done a lot of, reading and as far as in seeing and where 1.1 is a fairly standard, measurement. But I was willing to go something like 1.25, go more than that. But it seems that 2,000 is pretty restrictive. When we're talking about only a 400-foot tower, which probably ain't gonna get built anyway. Just my thoughts. But 1.1 does seem to be a fairly uniform standard, recommendation.
There's a lot of problems with that, Tom.
I know, and that's why I was willing to go along,
Well,
More
I
than
don't
that.
think that's enough.
wait, that's fine.
Mary, comments?
I would be willing to go maybe 1,500 feet, but no less than that.
Mike?
I could live with 15. I'd rather be a quarter mile, just 13, 20.
Sandra?
I would go with the 1,500 feet.
Chris?
I'm still at 2,000.
She's still 2,000. All right, I have a motion and a second to change the property line from 1.1 times to 2,000 feet. All in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed, say nay. Nay.
Nay.
I think we better do a roll call vote on that. What you call everybody else?
Monica McHugh,
Let's start with the other board members first.
Tom Stewart,
Nay,
Mike Burt,
Nay,
Sandra Gerlach,
Nay,
Emerita Key, John Manson,
yes,
Christine Bob. Aye. Monica McHugh,
No. 2,000 feet has been defeated. Do I have another motion? Out on the. For another motion.
I would move that we set the setbacks from property line 1,500.
I have a motion for 1,500 feet. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Board discussion. John? You're gonna say 2,000.
no more discussion.
All right. Mary, anything to add?
I just.
Mike,
I can live with it.
Sandra,
1,500 is okay.
Chris? Okay. All right. All in favor, I'll call for a vote of moving the property line to 1,500 feet. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No,
Motion carried.
About the 6-1.
Yes, 6-1. So change the 1.1 to 1,500.
What's that math wise, like 3.75, 3.5?
Um,
3.75. All right, property lines. Public right, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, yeah, so they wouldn't be able to, even with a variance, they wouldn't be able to get it tall enough to go over 1,500 feet. For a setback. I mean, always before we had 1.1 or so many feet, whichever is greater.
Right.
So 1,500 feet we excludes the need for that, even with a tall tower.
Cause that would still get, like, even if.
That'd be two, that
2 point
two,
whatever.
two something, yeah.
So
What percent on it? Is that what you want?
It was,
No.
well, it's like two, I checked that out, it's like 28,
Like two eighths.
10.28 of, yeah.
yeah, of a mile,
Of a
yeah,
mile.
so it's
Yes.
over a quarter of a
Yeah.
mile. So,
Yeah, I was
and that's
asking,
kind of what I was thinking,
Okay, I
is
got you.
if we weren't gonna go with a 1 point something, I was thinking quarter of a mile, so that's why I said close enough.
So with that in mind, public right of way, we also have the 1.1. Do we want to change that in the public right of way to 1,500 feet?
I would make a motion to do that.
All right, I have a motion. A second. And a second discussion. John. 52,000, I know, that's where you're at.
No, that doesn't bother me. I'm just trying to protect the private landowners.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Mary, any comment?
No comment.
I think we ought to make this and the next one, consistent. So, yes, I support that.
Nice.
Might have had the same idea.
Okay.
It makes sense to me.
Sandra,
keep it consistent.
great. So do I have a motion? I already have a motion for it. So do you want to amend the motion to add in the communication and electric lines?
I would make that amendment.
All right, we have an amendment. We have a second. A second. All right, any other discussion on that? So the motion, the amended motion is to
We'll have the
change
amendment first, so I guess we
the
could.
public right of way and the communication electric lines to 1,500 feet from 1.1 times the total height. Any other discussion or questions on that motion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? You vote yea? Oh, okay, I didn't hear you, Jeff, sorry.
Definition of property line.
All right. So we will change now what will be B and C to 1,500 feet.
And
And D, no, D is now C. Because we
Oh,
removed
Yeah,
A.
you're moving them up, we took a.
Oh, okay. We lettering.
Technical here, we just voted on the amendment, well, we haven't voted on the original motion. So
Okay,
technically
so
we should vote on it.
technically we need to vote on the original motion.
Correct,
So the
or
ori-
otherwise
You're right. The
Somebody's
origi-
gonna point that out if we don't do it.
You're right. So the original motion to change the public right of way to 1,500 feet, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that carries as well. Okay, so the next one is the sound.
you guys asked me to do a little research into some other ordinances and how they were written in that. And
Yes.
you put that in our packet, right?
Yes.
At the back. Okay, so there was. Let me see, um,
Like the second to the last page in there.
okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and fix my typo right there. Anyway, this came out of, Lynn County. And they actually have a property line ordinance. I know that was important to you guys to govern the sound at the property line versus at a dwelling. So I found this, and this is one that they just adopted in July of this year. You can, I went ahead and highlighted the part in number A. The average decibel limit is specified to the source of the sound and does not count against the cumulative ambient decibel levels as established in the baseline acoustical evaluation. And you can read through some of the other engineering, post-construction, pre-construction, reevaluations.
We didn't put that in ours, did we?
Reevaluations now.
I have a question for you. Do you have any idea how much noise, how much sound mics put out?
I have no idea.
I was surprisingly loud to me,
Was it?
yes.
Okay. No,
Now, it was a windy morning and it was rolling right along, and I was standing close to it,
right.
but I was surprised.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're probably what, within the fall zone or not?
Oh, I was within,
Okay, so you're within 100 feet of the fence.
yes, I was.
And property line, he had over, I measured it today when I was talking. I actually know I measured to the nearest dwelling. He's all of 400 feet, so he met the fall zone that we used. Remember, I was working under the guidance of ECIA and we used, some other ordinances to help guide that personal wind, that feels to facilitate that to happen.
Sure.
So, but he met the fall zones were well within the right of, the side setbacks.
Well, I do view a personal windmill differently than I do an industrial group, but I haven't been that close to a commercial windmill, and so I can't tell you how much noise it makes.
Right.
But, I was just trying to imagine, if his was just loud for its size, or, if, possibly, I just had it on a bad morning or something. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I honestly think it does depend on the height of it, because as much as I hate the ones in Boone County on ground that I would potentially inherit.
Yep.
They are not that loud. I mean, you can hear them, but they really are not that loud.
It was probably that I was so close to it.
And, well, I stood right underneath the one. That's on our family property. So it's not quite that loud. I mean, and you can hear it. But I think because his is smaller, the motor is closer to the ground.
Mhm.
Whereas the commercial, it is higher. So you're not gonna hear, it's further away from you.
Okay.
I was looking for screenshots because out in Powashik County, we were running ahead for a party we were going to, so I pulled over on County Road, smack dab between two of them. When I got back, I was able to measure to see how far away I was from both of those. It was about 600 and some feet, so they were probably at that 660 setback. And I had screenshots of the noise meter that I had, and I know it was windy, I know, so the ambient noise was there. And then you also have the turbine, and I think the meter was, in the high 70s, low 80s, bouncing back and forth. But part of that was the ambient noise and the way, we were looking for a good definition, how to measure. The average decibel limit is specific to the source of the sound and does not count against the cumulative ambient decibel levels as established in a baseline acoustic evaluation.
Well, where you're at, Prussia County, it's flat.
Yeah, it was.
And so even on a calm day, you still get wind.
It was nice and flat, unlike
Nothing like here.
Our beautiful area.
Watch your dog run away for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I do kind of like their pre and post construction noise evaluation.
Ours is there, but it doesn't, let's go back to, okay. Let's see where we have the ambient noise, number B.
Sound.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. We took out noise.
Or sound, not-
To sound, you're right.
That's the reason I corrected myself.
Um,
so yeah, we can reword that. We can use more of their wording since it does go to property line. However, if you did wanna mimic part of that, one thing you'd wanna be careful with or just be mindful of right now. We're at 50 decibels, but that's measured at the nearest inhabited structure.
Which we need to change that from inhabited structure, I think, to property line,
Okay,
since we've removed.
Okay.
That,
and then do you wanna keep it at the 50? Or since you're not going to structures, or what are you guys inclined to do?
I'm inclined to keep it at 50.
Okay,
Um. All right, looking for comments. Did everybody read through the, noise? Of course, we would change it to sound and analysis. I really like what Lynn County did. For a pre and post construction sound evaluation.
Well, ours basically the same thing. The pre thing, anyway.
I think that this is written out better because it talks.
It might
about
be,
the
yeah, it might be,
engineer,
yeah.
the type of engineer that needs to be used. Either a
But it says,
certified professional or a PE.
it says an Institute of Noise Control Engineering, we're calling it sound.
I know,
So
but
is there
the-
such a thing as an Institute of Sound Control Engineering?
No, there is not. It's the
Okay,
Institute of Noise.
now we got a
Control.
problem.
We can do sound and use noise, speak for the noise control.
Yeah,
Maybe we can, I don't know, yeah.
yeah, because that's what they're named, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Might have to take offense to that.
Like I'm having to be reevaluated too.
Yeah, I like the reevaluation part of it.
and it is definitely noise control, Institute of Noise Control.
Yeah,
So we could keep that language,
Yeah.
but if you wanna keep everything else at sound.
sound, you know, sound, I think. And then I really think that, and like the every 5 years,
An evaluation shall be completed. I like that too.
Yeah.
The operators expense. I think that's a good idea.
yeah,
Well, if there's some type of, things get old and they get squeaky.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
So
They
the
were,
evaluation is not a bad
yeah, that's,
choice. in some cases.
5 years too long.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so.
Reasonable.
Yeah, very reasonable. Make it 10, but-
No, I wouldn't make it 10 either.
So we're gonna put. You're talking about putting, C, D, and E from this added page. And
Well,
where,
To be honest, I would do all of it. All of it, except
for the
change it,
decimal level.
change it the 50 decibels and noise to sound.
Hmm,
so you're gonna replace. Number 12 that we have here, sound, with this whole number 7 noise analysis. only reword things that we need to do. Is that what your
I,
thoughts or other people's thoughts are?
to be honest, I think theirs is a little more clear. Thoughts?
No, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure we're talking the same thing.
In
What
my
if we were-
opinion,
What if we were to do their entire paragraph as maybe E? Letter E after B, is that gonna be?
I think there is some, contradictions in there because we talk about 45-mile-an-hour wind with short-term increases, but they have, the average hourly decibel level may be exceeded during short-term events such as severe windstorms. And it like in windstorms, we can change it to weather events. So I think what, I do, though, think we need to leave D in for waivers.
Isn't E on yours? Just a less wordy version of it.
I don't think so. I don't think there's a waiver.
Yeah.
Is there, oh, yep, I missed it.
On E.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we could. Change it to, because we talk about inhabited structures, then we want to change that to property line,
And that covers property.
and
line
that covers property line.
But you still want to see 50 decibels and not 55.
Yes, I would like to see 50. What thoughts? I mean,
So we still need to vote though on changing that to property lines, right?
we do, but we don't have a motion on the floor yet.
Okay.
And if we scrap everything, we don't need to
Never
change
change
that.
that.
Right.
If we're getting
Yeah,
rid of the whole thing and
and putting it
substituting.
and substituting.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a little more clear and precise on what it says what we're trying to say.
More concisely.
Yes,
So with
I
the
think-
exception of changing their 55 to our 50,
Yeah.
otherwise.
and then like instead of
Sound to noise.
Yeah,
or
right.
noise
noise
to
to sound.
Right.
Yep, and then instead of windstorms, weather events.
Right.
Because that would, I mean, that would cover everything.
Should we add part of this, what we have in II under D about the permanent sound impact easement recorded in the Office of Jackson County Recorder part? Or not?
Well, their E counts it or puts that in. And recorded waiver, which would be in the recorder's office.
Okay, well, it doesn't
Just do it with less words.
It says it with less words, because if you're recording something, you're
Okay,
gonna
okay.
record it with the county recorder. Any land documents and things like that, so. And we'll get to the wildlife thing next, because I like that too, I think that.
But I knew
But-
that was also
Yeah.
something you guys
We've
had
talked
concern
about.
with and we were just looking for, some of that language
Yeah.
to add.
And who's going to enforce that every 5 years?
That would be
Every question.
whoever's in the zoning office.
And what if they don't comply?
One of the things that I've been talking to, the assistant county attorney about is fines. And right now, we don't have anything specific, a good way outside of our normal fines, $750 to $1,000 a day of non-compliance. I know, but there were some issues exceeded, if we exceeded that and we weren't consistent with other, and the way we're doing with other parts of our of our ordinance, so, I mean,
This would be different though, these are commercial ones, so it would be a big corporation, to a big corporation,
That's
$750 a day
it's nothing,
is nothing.
absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
But
They
our
were
fines-
checking into attorney,
Yeah.
AG rulings and. I mean, if there's a way to do it, I think we need to have some better teeth in this for enforcement, but.
The problem that you run into is, are we discriminating against corporations from individuals?
Or is it just wind corporations? You know, because we don't have anything different for our commercial industrial properties that are in violation. And differentiate
Right.
that between a residential or an ag
Yeah.
owner.
So it's one of those where we have to look at our zoning. I think if we change something, I think we would have to do something by zoning, and I don't think that's what we really want to do. Change fines based on the zoning that's out there.
I can reach
And
out,
the other part of it is, I know we're talking about big corporations, but you also have, you've got smaller incorporated, you know, farms. I'm not sure we wanna do that.
we can ask one again from our county attorney, which, I'm hoping that we will, that we can get them at all of our meetings from here on out.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, we're getting pretty deep and, closing in on this, and that way, if there's anything that, yeah, I know, right?
Sure, we
After a year.
Yeah,
whatever.
no, Tom, I want this done, because I wanna hold a public
Yes,
hearing
so do I, so
next
do I.
meeting, next meeting.
Okay.
So back to the subject.
It doesn't do any good to put that paragraph in there if we're not going to do anything about it.
We can keep it there,
Better
but
to have it there now.
Right,
Not-
right, but I mean, I
Still
feel like we
need to-
need to add to it what the consequences
we can
are.
keep it there and then see if we can work with the county attorney on developing specific fines that relates to the whole thing, the whole wind ordinance for violation of anything,
Right.
sound, shadow flicker, not cleaning up, all we have, that's another, just.
Yeah, we gotta get to that yet.
We haven't
Yeah.
got to that yet, so just,
Well, you know, as you mentioned to the county attorney, that $10,000 a day would probably not be out of line.
I agree,
Fine.
I agree,
And you
it's enough
need to agree with me.
their
so-
attention. Yeah, I think there was some concerns about the Attorney General's position on that. So if there's a way to get your will done, I'm sure he can help facilitate that.
Yeah.
So,
Do I have a motion on replacing number 12 with the Lynn County's number 7?
I will move.
With the exception of the
Yes.
decibel level.
With the exception of the decibel level, yes.
And changing.
There's that, make a motion that'll
Yes.
wrap this all up.
That's right.
Tonight,
Yeah.
so.
I will move that we replace, number 12, sound with, the Lynn County ordinance, changing of course noise to sound and keeping our 50, dBA instead of 55.
All right, is there any more, again, do I have a second?
Awesome.
I have a second. Is there any more for discussion on this? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Okay. So now we're to number 13.
The safety.
Yeah. All right. one of the notes I threw at the end was in August meeting, there was discussion of proven interference. Who has that burden to prove? What does the proof look like or detail? So this had, that went back to like the electromagnetic interference,
I-
radio, television.
And I really struggle with this because how do you prove it? I mean, the weather affects my cell phone from all the way down Highway 61. There are days when it's perfectly sunny, no wind, and there's a spot, my phone drops every time. But in some crappy weather, the same area, I have no issues. How do I contact my cell phone company and say, hey, we have a problem, you need to fix it? I just don't think this really can be enforced. And how to prove it,
Yeah,
I don't know.
because I know we had using cell phones as an
Oh, yeah.
example. We used to have great cell phones between Andrew and Springbrook. I could carry
Yep.
all the way from my house to wherever.
When you had 3G and then when it went to 5G, it quit.
Mhm.
You know, kind of like the new, when they went from antenna TV to the digital. We could very easily pick up Cedar Rapids TV stations without an antenna. With the digital, something that I found out, is on the digital, they will go so far and then it just drops. So even though they have a stronger signal, I can't pick up that TV station without a huge antenna because it went digital instead of analog. So the technology is gonna change. I mean, we've seen a huge jump even in the last 10 years. I have difficulty with J. I don't know, comments, Tom? Or John, I was sorry, I was gonna start with John, any comments? Mary?
You have difficulty with enforcing it, maybe?
Yeah, and
How-
who,
how
and
to
how,
fix
and how to prove it?
Yeah.
How to prove it, who, burden of proof, and how do we know that it's not, whether we're.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
That too. Cause I know it'd be easy, like right now, I mean, we're complaining about our cell service went, just downhill the
Yeah.
last 3 years. If there was wind turbines, by golly, it's their fault.
Yeah.
But how do you prove it?
Yeah.
But now we know it wasn't, cause they're not here.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? We're gonna
Right.
blame anything that's outside that may not actually be the effect.
and how do you prove it?
Well. I believe the argument is gonna be made that it does happen, it is real, I heard it the other night. And,
So where's the proof?
how do you prove it, how do you mitigate it, I'm not sure. But, in public hearing, we're gonna hear that as an argument, I know. I'm just not sure how to handle it, so. I guess I'm not much help on this one.
Right,
Yeah, I don't know how you prove it or prove it, disprove it, whatever, but my thought is you leave it in there and then let somebody else throw it out if they think it needs to be thrown out. I know it's there and you won't be able to probably enforce it, but I'd rather have something there that people can work with if there is some way that I have problems with my cell phones too, and I have problems with other things that don't work. I can't prove that it's one thing or another, but things don't work because of something. You can't get a phone provider to verify it. There's folks everywhere.
So that's where it comes back, the burden of proof.
yeah, that's,
It
Yeah,
would
I
have
would
to
say
be the
leave
company.
I would say leave it in, just because at some point maybe you can.
That's what I'm gonna
That's
say.
already
yeah.
there.
I don't think it's hurting anything that it's there.
is what I'm kind of saying.
I don't think it's hurting anything, however, I take complaints about different things.
Well, yeah,
This is happening. Well, prove it because coming from that, I mean, the county doesn't have the burden of proof to approving there's an issue
Well,
or
yeah, right.
disproving there's not an issue.
So should the person being affected?
That would probably
Apparently,
be,
they're the ones that have the burden of proof, but
Right.
it's
Right.
not, that's not right for them either.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with it because I mean. We had this discussion when we changed phone service. Guess what? It recorded my house and it didn't work at the back of the farm.
Yeah.
But I don't think it hurts anything to leave it.
Yeah, leave it.
I mean, I don't think we should really stress too much about it. I think it's just like an extra.
Yeah,
I agree.
and there's nothing in there saying that the county has to be involved.
Exactly. I don't think that by default,
But the problem is they will be because the complaints will come here. And so you go back to the wind turbine company and say,
But it's
you're
not,
causing an issue. Take care of it.
but it's not like that other one that we just talked about that specifically said. According to county's compliance, this one does not say.
I know.
And then the
but-
board of supervisors, the blanket, they'll throw it out.
I'm just gonna say something that happened at our house, for example. So we had a satellite for our internet service. And one day it was very intermittent, very intermittent. It went on for a couple days. And they determined it was, now all the trees are leafed out and they have grown over summer. They moved the dish to the other side of the house, it was fine. So that was very physical proof. So this at least, if there would be something that now this block is put in somewhere, that would be something that could easily be seen, not that it was in the air. But
The
that-
proof,
But I mean, it could be something like that, and I would certainly not want to have any emergency tower or communication tower to not have something to fight about. I mean, we can't have our emergency towers be jeopardized.
of course not, but it's. Like, again, we're talking something that was working, now it's not, but how do we know it's actually directly related to those?
the proof is when they shut the windmill down, which they do,
Yeah,
if
true,
you don't have a problem.
exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
right, start eliminating,
yeah.
So we have it there,
Eliminate
they
possible.
help with that.
eliminate,
So
you're
we
right,
leave it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
leave it, yeah.
yeah.
I think we leave it.
so we leave it.
All right, and but we don't have any, we still go back to trying to get those fines if they aren't
Mhm.
following.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
what's the repercussion?
Mhm.
Okay.
So nothing about burden of proof.
Nope.
Who has to prove it?
So shadow flicker, sorry.
Easy for you to say.
So we'll change, are we gonna change that to property line as well?
The,
Shadow flicker?
well, I don't know what they think.
We can't change that to
Can't
property
change-
line.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so, but
Yeah, because in the different times of the year, and different times of the day, you know,
yeah, I did think.
We should have a period after that, and be reasonably practical. Should have a period after it.
Oh, certainly should.
So we're gonna do residence or occupied structure or,
For shadow flicker, that would have to be,
cause we've got occupied building,
yeah,
occupied, I don't know if it's with people or. People and animals,
yeah, I think that was, people and animals in that. I think the residents are occupied community building.
So do we need to say structure?
In the definition, structure, anything constructed or erected on the ground or attached to the ground, including but not limited to antennas, buildings, sheds, cabins, dwellings, built on site or factory homes, signs, storage tanks, towers, windmill, and other similar uses. We might need to do some cleanup on structures, because we had inhabited structures. Let's see, I don't think that's part of our. We don't have inhabited structures as a definition. We probably need to add that and go back to what we were using before. An inhabited structure is structures over 144 square feet that are permanently occupied by humans or livestock. That was what we were using before for inhabited structure, but I see now that it's not
Yeah,
part of our
we
definition.
took that one out and we changed that to structure. So do we want to change? Where it's a shadow flicker and B, change that to structure?
Well, A2.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, right. A and B.
Use residences, we have a definition for residence.
Well, but you guys were also leaning towards livestock buildings also.
Yeah, and we could say residence and
Other inhabited
other
structures.
structures and residences and structures.
Inhabited,
That's
not
what-
inhabited.
Add animal livestock, I would think.
But I think we took the inhabited out. And I think part of that was because you might have a shed that is inhabited by livestock part of the year and other times of the year it is not. So,
So some are just hay buildings. And the shuttle flicker's probably not bothering the hay building like maybe it would something else.
Well, but in that case, our shed has hay and a horse in the winter.
Yeah.
So this wind is occupied half of the year.
Perhaps I need to get back to where.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my,
That's all.
you're slacking tonight. You're slacking.
I'm.
It's easy, I know.
I slack most nights, to tell you the truth, yeah.
I think we could almost
Yeah,
recite
I'll
this.
cut my pay.
Yeah,
It's getting
because-
really-
Could kick me off, that'd be hard.
Not happening.
Cause we were still using inhabited structures that, permanently occupied by humans and livestock. That was language even,
The time before last. I think.
okay, what do you
Are we
want to
using-
know? I
are
think
we
we,
using permanently?
We were
Permanently
using,
occupied?
we were using permanent structure rather than occupied structure. You never know, our hay building, my husband might end up in it some night because we get into a fight, so I kicked him out to the hay barn.
it's a big doghouse.
You ever consider taking you?
I don't see that happening.
Maybe once or twice.
So, yeah, we can work on that definition. And then too, probably need to add a definition under in the definition portion to be consistent and to leave out any, uncertainties.
I do struggle with the inhabited structure because, like I said, some buildings can be occupied half of the year.
Well, it can be inhabited, we just don't have to say permanently inhabited.
Well,
And also at
so
some
where did
point,
we,
they
where
might
did
be
we use
inhabited.
the permanent, the only
The
place I
permanent one, yeah.
we used the permanent things in number 12, and we took that out.
But we had it in, I
Where did
think
we
2
have it?
months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. It's been recently that we took it out. That we changed it to structure. I don't recall what month
Trying
we
to
did
find out
that.
where we use structure anymore.
We have it in sound,
We took that out.
or under the non-commercial wicks. Ambient noise levels shall be measured at the exterior of a potentially affected existing residence or from inhabited structures over 144 square feet that are permanently occupied by humans or livestock. So that's in the non,
Kind of made a
But it
definition right
just
there.
replaced.
Yeah, that's
oh,
true.
You made the definition right
Yeah.
there.
But you
Yeah.
wanna take out permanent, don't you? Because of the. Like you said, sometimes it is, sometimes it's
Sometimes
not,
it
and
is,
sometimes in the future it might be where it isn't now.
I hate to look at future, but there are some that are part-time. Inhabited. I mean, there's some part-time,
What are we gonna consider part-time? We got so many
That-
months a year.
Just
yeah,
get rid
I
of,
mean, that's,
just get rid of permanent.
I mean. Yeah, I
Just get rid
don't,
of the permanent.
I think we should get rid of the permanent and just put structure, because,
Mhm.
you know,
Get rid of.
get rid of permanent
Okay.
and occupied by, yeah, humans or livestock.
Yep.
That would,
So that's down the road here.
yeah,
Well,
so remember that when we get there, so it's, but we need to do something in, yeah,
You took A out.
into county.
Yeah.
Okay.
There.
So where are we making this change again? On B,
Not gonna change anything now.
nothing new,
no,
okay. So under shadow clicker, no changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
well, or wait a minute.
Yeah.
No,
No,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
we
no,
have
no,
to.
we-
We have
we-
to.
residence or structure.
Are we talking about B under shadow clicker?
A and B, well, it has both of them.
Participating residents, we have it.
So non-participating residents or occupied.
So we have a definition for residents.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Or
Occupied
structure.
community building?
We do not, that's why we need to,
So
We
that's-
did it
What
one
we got.
time.
we did it one
That's
time,
why
but
we got
we've
rid of it.
taken that out, we took that out.
Take that out, put structure.
So we need to do structure is what we need to do.
Okay, so the shadow
So-
clicker requirements of this section apply to non-participating residents.
Residents or structure.
Or structures
So we need to
that
have,
exist when the owner files an application in accordance with section 3 of this ordinance. Okay, that's the application.
so we've got it, we have it in A, B, C, D, E, and F. I bet it's in G2. Yep, G2. So do I have a motion to change the entire section 14 and replace residence or occupied community building to residence or structure throughout section or 14 under section 3?
Does it have to say occupied structure?
I know structure, because we don't have a definition for occupied, the structure,
So any structure.
yes. So I have a motion, do I have a second? Any other board discussion on that? Right, all in favor of changing or occupied community building to structure? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So I think that takes care of that.
Question, do we need to strengthen our definition of structure?
To make it be the 144 square feet or anything.
That or that's permanent?
I think it is, anything constructed,
Because-
erected to the ground or attached to the ground.
Including that living, antennas, buildings. Yeah, just to spell out even animal buildings. I mean, because there's. I mean, we know the intent,
Building sheds, cabin dwellings, I think that kind of covers everything.
yeah, because we know the intent. is to be every building. But, you know, is it gonna be misinterpreted that it doesn't include, I know it says buildings,
It says buildings.
all buildings.
Where are we? Like, where's the definition?
It's on page 3 for the definition.
Yeah. So what are you concerned that they're gonna try to say
Oh,
doesn't fit?
I just have dealt with, well, it doesn't say this, you know, specifically.
Okay.
Or just, you know, not
Buildings,
buildings, all buildings.
building.
Okay.
But not.
I think we're okay on that.
Okay.
If they can't figure that out. I.
Right, so that's why I mean.
I mean,
Yeah, so you guys are okay with it? I was just looking to make it a little bit,
I'm
give it a
wondering,
more
More
teeth.
I'm
specific.
wondering, I would almost say less. Anything constructed or erected on the ground or attached to the ground.
Okay,
And then that's, you can't say, well, this wasn't on the list.
true. Yeah, instead of having including in it, yeah, maybe even being. You know, sometimes less is more.
I think when we were looking at this. For the structures is. The reason we did it this way is to avoid having somebody pull in a camper and set it there.
Structures.
And,
But it's not constructed or erected.
that's why we put that in there.
Right.
To avoid having campers pulled in
Right.
and set them, is
Yeah.
what is the reason why we did it that way.
But they can attach a camper to the ground.
And they can patch, and they can put a deck around it or something.
Yeah, or, you
But
know,
that is a
even,
built structure, but we were trying to avoid somebody just pulling one in.
or
just-
this, or strapping them, you know, strapping them down with tie downs, like they're supposed to, you know.
Permanently attached to the ground.
Permit, but that's,
We can put permanent. Well,
But
then,
not everything is
then
permanent.
define permanent.
yeah.
Because you'd have a portable building on skids for small animals,
Mhm.
and that's a structure. Right now.
Yeah,
Again, I mean, we're never going to write something for everything.
Yeah,
And there's always somebody that is able to find something to be disputed somewhere.
I
And then
think
we
we-
just have to let it be up to the
Yeah.
courts or, I mean, somebody else will have to take care of that.
I think we've had this discussion on structure so many times. in the
Right.
Past,
Okay.
that,
Right.
yeah. A lot. I can't remember. Yeah, we did go in past that, okay. Sorry, my brain is starting to shut
okay,
down.
so go back to page 7.
No,
Nine.
we're on 11 now.
11. Okay, we need to look at number 10. Before we get too far. I have it in red there for you guys.
Redundant.
Oh,
So, the owner of a commercial wax shall provide reasonable shadow flicker mitigation at the owner's expense for non-participating residents or occupied community building. We want to change that.
Yeah.
But that was part of,
yeah,
that was part of that.
that was
Okay.
part of that.
Or occupied community buildings, so. Do we want shall provide, at 20 hours, and above it says shall at 30 hours. We had before. So it looks like we're repeating the same thing and making a requirement twice. At one time, I thought we had talked about may, and the may was redundant because, you know, you can be nice if you want, but, because an owner shall operate the wicks in a manner that does not cause more than 30 hours per year of shadow flicker occurring on the walls or windows of non-participating residents or occupied or structures. If a non-participating resident or structure experiences more than 30 hours per year under the CWEX normal operating conditions, the owner shall use operational curtailment. So we have shall in that paragraph twice. E, the WEX, commercial WEX shall work with an owner of a non-participating residence or structure or inhabited structures. We want to get rid of that 144.
Yep.
Okay. And permanently occupied?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the, so again, the
Yeah.
shall work with those people. And then we have the owner shall provide reasonable shadow flicker mitigation at the owner's expense. Same thing as basically it's in number D, but now we're saying it at 20 hours.
20 hours.
I think how this was before, and I don't know how it migrated, but we had talked about, may provide reasonable shadow flicker mitigation for non-participating residents or structure at 20 hours. But the question at that, I think, was, do we have to tell them they can be nice at 20 hours or can they just be nice at 20 hours?
It may be nice.
I think you're right. I think that was the part of the issue.
I'm gonna pull up an old ordinance here real fast. And that is for F under shadow flicker. Yeah, this was questioned, the owner of the CWEX shall provide, I had noted, read this 20 and 30, because it kind of says the same thing, but you guys, what do you
Yeah,
think?
we did go, I mean, what month did we do that? Oh, jeez,
Good
we're
question.
running together.
I'm thinking it's last month.
I thought it was a month before.
No, we probably touched it both times.
So wait, under 30, they're saying that they're just gonna curtail their operations on D. But then if, that's at 30. So at 20, they shall provide mitigation. That, so it's not exactly redundant.
True. So the 20 is
Like at the 30, they're forced to
they're
curtail their
forced to shut it
operation.
down
Oh,
during
that's
certain
right.
hours.
At 20,
20,
they
have
have to provide mitigation.
Yeah, that's what it was. We wanted, yeah,
Okay, that
yeah.
makes
Makes
more
makes
sense
Makes sense, but
at 20. All right,
Okay.
so that is a shall. Got it. All right. So there's changes in this that we'll be making for the structure as we go further. This was. Okay, so on page 11, I have a note to throw out. And I didn't know where we wanted to throw this in.
Lori and I talked about this one, and this is so, everybody has seen the videos of the wind turbines that have not been cleaned up in Cedar County. And in fact, I kind of mentioned it to you once before because a coworker's family is nearby out there. And something that was unknown to me until the last few days is that those two turbines were prototypes. They were not working turbines.
They had not been mass produced.
Yeah, they've not
Because-
been,
right.
yeah.
So they
So,
produce electricity then? But they were not. You're
They-
right, prototypes, right?
yeah, they were prototypes.
It never went into full production, but the ones in Cedar County actually provide electricity.
I think
Yeah.
they did to the owner, and so this is my comment with this. Which I asked Lori, did they belong to, I think that's like Alliant Energy's territory?
The name on it, I looked it up one time and it wasn't one of the big boys that I'm
Okay.
used to seeing their names on.
So
It was,
these might not even have been part of, so we all know the wind companies come in, they build them, they sell them off to Alliant, Mid-American, potentially REC, not
They
yet.
don't, no, they don't,
Okay,
they don't
they
sell
don't-
them off, they,
okay.
they keep it. They generally, I'm not gonna say every time, but they generally keep a separate company that owns the windmill site and they sell the power.
Okay.
They don't sell the site.
They don't sell the site.
That, now, if a Sitco or if an Alliant wants to go in and build their own site, then yes, they own that. But like what we're talking about with this will be built and then most likely be owned by a second or a, another company.
Is that, would that company be affiliated with Alliant or Mid-American or REC?
It just depends on how they set it up, but the point is they not necessarily owned by one of the big companies. But this New Era is a big company in itself,
Right.
so,
you're talking next era.
next era,
Next Era.
next era, New Era's program,
Yeah.
it is.
So,
But anyway, go ahead with your
But-
thought,
so-
I'm just
yeah,
saying,
no.
yeah,
so that, I mean, this is my concern with this. They also said, I think in the news report, so I don't know if this is valid or not, that the original company that built these, the company had changed hands several times.
that's typical.
So that's even typical with normal.
That's the real concern, like up in the, and sorry for me jumping in here,
No,
but
that's okay.
the real concern with the solar farm that's going up by Cog
Talking, yeah.
is that's the real concern they have up there is it's being built by a company that's like, I don't know that it is Next Era, but it is like that. And it has been already changed hands once or twice. And that's what, one of the big concerns is, when you start having a company change hands, and it's not actually owned by Alliant, like we talked about,
Right.
or some other entity that's permanent, then the concern is it's gonna get shunted off to this company and then that company, and then,
Right.
lawsuits are trailing around trying to find who's actually responsible.
Well, they just keep the ball pretty much stuck.
Yeah.
So it can happen. I'm not saying it happens every time, but it can happen.
But I think what you're trying to make, that, those are prototypes that never went into full production, obviously
right.
because there's problems. So first generation, prototypes and first generation technology, can we write that to where it's something that we would not allow?
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's where
never-
we're going
You know,
with it.
it's kind of like, well, I was talking about certain types of cars earlier that, that maybe did get mass produced, but maybe weren't the most reliable things in the world. But eliminating the first generation might eliminate
I'm not,
some of that, or just
I-
prototypes.
I'm not so concerned with first generation technology that's mass produced.
So you're looking at something that's like a fruit.
Like experimental, so experimental,
Yeah.
I would say no. But how do we How do we confine, how do we do that?
I don't know, should we ask our county attorney?
Did it never go into full production or it was never even put into production? What's the-
They did not go into mass production.
Yeah.
The ones that we're talking about in Cedar County,
So they were never
Orange.
used.
well, those were used, but it's kind of like mass production, like, making. Like if you were to make purses to sell, but then you start doing a factory style and mass produce thousands a day or hundreds a day. This
As
never
compared
went
to- yeah.
into,
Mass,
not
These
producing
two were
electricity,
working, but
but
they were not part of that. Okay, because what I was getting it at was if they never went into full production in Cedar County, then our ordinance says that you're supposed to come down. But you're saying the
Produced in a
line of
factory.
them were
So,
not.
right.
yeah,
mass
so
produced.
that's the problem is that,
Right,
how do we know? I mean, we're not experts in this stuff.
Can we restrict them to those that have been in mass production? Because they're not gonna mass
Right.
produce them unless they're,
Not necessarily. I mean, they put them up for testing and experimental.
no, but you don't let it experimental.
How do we know that it's experimental?
I would think it would be spelled out on any kind of website. that they have.
Not necessarily. Not if they're looking at quote, new technology or proprietary information, they're not gonna do it.
does anything to avoid anything like has happened in Cedar County? You know, is that they were guinea pigs from the way it
Yeah.
sounds. If that's, you know, like what we're hearing is accurate.
Right.
well, and probably anything that's here today is a guinea pig compared to what is going to be here anytime in the future.
Right.
I mean, they're going to get better materials, they're going to get better, so.
Great. I don't know how,
Yeah, I think Sandra, in a way, is making a point there is that the technology is always changing, and so an existing wind field, you know, they might want to put up the next generation of windmill that is not fully tested. I get what you're saying.
Because
And
supposedly
how do you
it's better
restrict-
than
yeah,
what we
because-
have,
yeah,
Because it could end up being the best thing.
the best thing out
Right,
there,
right,
right? How do you get a job without experience? How do you get experience without a job?
right.
yeah.
And at the time, they didn't know they weren't going to go into full production, I'm sure.
No, because that's why they were testing them basically.
Right.
The biggest issue there is not so much that they were prototypes. The issue is there's still cleanup that hasn't been done.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I was gonna say.
And that's
yeah.
more of it, that is more of the issue on it.
And then I have that adding later,
Yeah.
underneath the discontinuation and
Yeah.
decommissioning. About adding additional language about, catastrophic and, catastrophic failure and guidelines. Or timelines, rather. Cause, that's the one thing that we're not seeing necessarily. We're talking about decommissioning and just, you know, discontinuation, but, catastrophic failure is a whole different ballgame.
Right, if they can't repair it, it's gotta be removed.
So in Cedar County, getting back to that,
Mhm.
is the reason they're having such a hard time getting that cleaned up is because the company isn't taking responsibility because it was a prototype and it was, and they're having a hard time pinning them down to get them to do this. I see some heads shaking out there, nodding, yes.
No, there's no comment, no public
Yeah,
comment tonight.
so I think that's my point is that, you know, it's one thing to say, don't have any new technology. I'm not sure I agree with that. You know, how do we pin down the company for the catastrophic failures that it's cleaned up in a timely fashion? And you and I talked about that
And
day.
there are, just so you guys know, I like to hear all sides. And so we know that in May, there was catastrophic failure on 6 turbines in Greenfield, Iowa, for
Right.
Dare County. Those turbines were cleaned up.
Right.
I talked to the owners of the turbines. And I do have phone numbers of farmers, that I haven't talked to, but my understanding, that damage was the third or fourth week of May and before the end of July, all 6 of those sites were,
That's because Ragbri was coming right straight through Greenfield.
oh, well, there you go.
Well,
But
yeah,
they-
but also there was a competent company that was behind that,
There-
and that's what
That
I
was
get.
different. It
Yeah,
was
that's-
different.
And
Yeah.
and again,
Yeah.
that's my concern, is
And-
you get, how do you
And, you know,
tie the
did that,
company down?
did that play into it? I
I'm
mean,
sure it did. I'm sure it
we
did.
don't, could it have, maybe? So
I don't know that for a fact, but my gut reaction is that yes, because
Bad
they,
PR.
they were trying, yeah, very bad PR, and they
But
were,
that was
and,
part of the route.
and they even changed the route to bring bicyclists through the damaged area so that they would
They
help
wanted to
donate,
see it. Yeah.
see it and help donate to the cleanup.
So is this all is gonna go back to punitive fines? Basically, isn't it?
Right,
Which has to be addressed.
which
Like the other-
we have another, I mean, there is another ordinance that's out there that gives the fee schedule. But, you know, can we add onto it? But the other part of it is, all right, so the company is out there. Who owned the company at the time? Have they gone bankrupt? Have they sent it to somebody else?
Right.
I mean, there's all sorts of things that can happen because, you know, if the company files for bankruptcy, they're screwed. Because
Well-
typically, well, yes and no. I mean, they
Yeah.
can, I mean, it can,
Well, don't we have it written in, they have to provide a bond or whatever for
right, yes, they do,
decommissioning?
yes.
Okay, so can we tie that to catastrophic failure?
I would think we could.
So the money's there to take care of it if the company is irresponsible.
Yeah, because, the
Yeah,
cost,
or-
Or goes bankrupt, yeah.
the cost estimate shall be made by a professional engineer licensed in the state of Iowa. The plan shall also identify the financial resources that will be available to pay for the decommissioning and removal of the CWEX and accessory facilities. At the expense of the owner, cost estimates for decommissioning shall be reviewed by the owner and Jackson County Board of Supervisors or their appointed representative every 5 years. So we don't specifically spell out a decommissioning bond.
I thought we did.
I thought we took some of that out. We said, no, we have the people have funds, and we have the people have insurance, and we don't make it repeat that.
I thought but I think we left the decommissioning one in
I thought we did.
to make sure that, you know, when it was past its useful life, but something that we need to add into that, I think you're right, Lori, is doing a catastrophic failure. Because if you've got a turbine that is no longer feasible, like the ones in Cedar County, obviously it's gotta be decommissioned. So
Yeah.
I think we do need to add in, I think we need to add something in that talks about catastrophic failures.
Okay, but we also need some language that's more specific.
Yes.
Instead of just saying a plan shall also identify the financial resources.
Yeah.
So we want something that is more specific, decommissioning bond or something like that, I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
Yeah,
That's something on that, or you know, you probably have to talk to the county attorney about what we can do, but I guess that's what's been coming home to me is the fact that, you know, once you have this mess and it happens, doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. And, you know, if you're not prepared for it and it happens to you, it is truly a catastrophic event for the whole area. We want to get it cleaned up. We want to make sure that happens.
Right.
And getting back to that, there's that 5 years again. So do they start the paperwork exactly 5 years to the date? Then how much time do they have to complete that paperwork? Cause that's, I mean, 5 years, we're going to review it, but yep, what's reviewing? How much time do they have for some company that has to come in and that says, I'm really busy and can't get to it? And I'll see you in 18 months, like the Army Corps of Engineer or whatever we just talked about before.
So, yeah, at the expense of the owner, cost estimates for decommissioning shall be reviewed by the owner, Jackson County Board of Supervisors, or their appointed representative every 5 years. And
So how
One of
much
the-
time do they have to get you, the Jackson County, that paperwork?
It's up to the
prove
Board of
that?
Supervisors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or their
Yeah.
but I mean,
representative.
does something,
right.
but does something have to be written
Um,
somewhere for that?
Just on some of the things I've seen with different organizations. They have a schedule. And just like with ECIA, I noticed that they have a schedule for certain things
Right,
and they haven't.
right.
I don't know if this would be,
But is it our position or our place to put some of those timelines in there, or are we just passing it on to whoever's looking at it the next time?
I think it's
I'm
up to the
just
board,
asking.
I think it's up to the Board of Supervisors.
and yeah, cause some of the, procedures, cause this be a procedural thing, where you're recommend, you're saying it has to happen, and then the procedural stuff will come in behind it.
Mhm. And so that's what I'm asking, if it's already in place in some other area, or
Yeah.
do we need to put it in place?
Yeah, it's not here, and we don't, like I said, we don't have the mechanics in place to do it, just kinda like,
I don't think we should put it into, I don't think it should be in this document. I think the Board of Supervisors representative should put those rules together. And I know that's kind of a cop out because when some of the laws go into effect and state agencies do their administrative rules, sometimes they get carried away. But I think in this case, this is something that should be handled by the board's person because they should be familiar with things like this. That's what I think.
I have another question. It's not about the catastrophic thing, but did you ever find out if the state or
Yeah.
has some way of knowing whether their last page? Last page?
yep, it's,
Yeah.
I reached out to the IUB.
Yeah.
And, they don't do that.
Well, so what's this link though?
I did go to the link and it's about 8 pages of spreadsheets about, different energy production sites throughout the country. You can find it's something I did not understand. It's way outside
Probably outside mine.
my level of knowledge there. But yeah, it's, it's electricity data that's nationwide.
They don't break it down by state. and
They do.
spreadsheet.
Yeah, the spreadsheet does, but there's 8 different tabs under that you go into for other criteria.
Okay.
We hire electrical engineers to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, I have no
Data
idea.
for that for one of the companies that we're gonna go into our computer for the quarter.
But you can see the email thread.
Do they need to see it? Yes.
That's, they need to see that.
It's not part of this. I printed this like at 6:15.
But, I've seen it before, they are quite expensive. And that, so on the discontinuation decommissioning. I think we should add discontinuation, decommissioning, and add catastrophic failures. And what I would like to see. We'll need a motion on this too. Adding in on. Catastrophic failures that a plan. To. Clean up. Needs to be submitted to the county. Within 30 days
30 days of the incident.
of the incident. Yes. Thoughts on that?
gonna try and put something in here to, have some money available.
Yep, I
Head of
kind of
that.
want to put that into,
That should be within, because we don't have anything, and I don't remember, I thought we had that, but it must, you must have taken that out for some reason. And there's, I thought we had estimates, we think it was because of insurance or something.
Required.
yeah,
It does require for cost estimates of decommissioning
But no actually bond money.
fund. And I have that in a note now and then I have, county attorney.
Escrow account or something.
yeah, because we talked about putting an escrow in, and I think there was something. I vaguely kind of remember the assistant county and attorney discussing that.
And, I'm thinking we're probably gonna need a definition of catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
Do you want me to look up that under other counties?
Yeah, let's
See if
look that
anybody
up,
addresses
let's
it.
put, yeah, because it would be, catastrophic failure, including but not limited to weather events that destroy or significantly damage beyond mechanical, beyond repair. Beyond repair, I think needs to be in there.
And then what do you put in like, with these poor people down Mechanicsville and wherever, can't use their fields. 'Cause it's full of crap, so how do you?
But see, that's the problem with it, because because it's up to the company.
Right.
And, although we do have, an ordinance out there for junk and things like that, this would not be a pileup of junk. This is an equipment failure.
But you also gotta remember that these people that are signing up to have these, commercial, things on them should, if they're smart, have a contract, and they should have an attorney review that contract to make sure that all the Ts are crossed and all the Is are dotted. That should be the first thing they should do.
Right. And
So
that's
really, it doesn't involve so much the county or us as a
Yeah.
commission, as it does a business transaction between the landowner and the
And the
company reviewed by their attorney.
But if I'm the landowner right next to it and it drops on my property.
Well, then that
I don't
landowner
have a
sues the other, that landowner
Exactly.
sues the other
You
landowner.
have the resources.
Or
in
the
the
wind,
court.
I mean,
the wind company.
but
You could do all of them.
you can do both.
And
You can do both.
mine-
But I mean, right, but I mean, that is not, that is not something we can, that's just not something that we can dictate. I know they wanted to bring it to everybody's attention on this, and, they want the counties and things to do something, but, how do you handle it when you have a building that gets blown into your yard from a tornado? I mean, there's,
Or
there's,
Or
there's,
from a quarter mile away.
right, there's fiberglass that's in that. And that's kind of the big issue that they're having there. So how can we treat, how can we force the turbine companies to do that we're not forcing our neighbors to do, that we have do we have an ordinance that says you must clean up your tornado damaged shed that blew into my property from a county away? I mean, or, or a house
Can't cover
that we can't, I mean, we can't cover everything. And I think with that, I think there's a line there that, homes that blow away. I struggle with that. I don't think we can legally do that. That is really something that the landowner and, that is really the responsibility of the landowner and their attorney to work with the.
Can you spell that in the country? That's what.
Yes, that's what contracts are for.
That'd be interesting to see why it's coming back. Or they.
They're
They're not
private.
general.
That's their,
They're
that's
just
their,
that's their-
yeah, that's their business.
Yeah. That's all we can do is recommend that they do that. But, I mean, as far as that, they need to tear, I think they need to tear it down and we need to do that, but we can't force them to clean everything up. That's not, that really has to, the landowner has to work within the contractual means.
So the people next door have to resort to suing the one that and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I get it. I get it. So,
Did you guys decide not to address the experimental
yeah, I don't
or
think we can.
prototype? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will add in catastrophic failure, do a definition. And add that into discontinuation, decommissioning, and catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
And then we needed to make changes if we move into the next one in number 7. That's for the non-commercial.
Hold on.
Oh, what I did.
No, you didn't do anything, but you did put in the Lynn County, wildlife protection.
Oh, yeah, I have that.
I think that should be a separate section. Did everybody get a chance to look at?
And just so you all know, and they spell it out in here, there are regulations. And then there's also just plain recommendations, that are brought up by national and state wildlife organizations, you know, the feds and the one thing that I kind of thought this might be lacking just a little bit. It doesn't say if you're looking to, you're just looking to see everything, but it doesn't say that you're looking to follow all the recommendations and guidelines. So that, you know, that's the one thing that this could be a little weaker on, because I'm not seeing. It just says, that, you know, this is, the purpose is, and procedures shall be designed to ensure, and it goes on about the, bats. Comply with federal and state wildlife, well, it does say comply with excuse me. It says regulations. From what I saw and was able to get from state DNR at the state level was, they don't really provide regulations, they provide recommendations.
We should have them shall follow recommendations.
Yeah,
That would really
yeah,
toughen it up.
yeah.
It would. Some of them are pretty staunch.
Follow the guidelines with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources.
Michelle.
Shall, shall.
Well, guidelines, because I don't know if they're. Wait, which number?
Where did I see?
So two follows recommendations.
Yeah,
Federal and state wildlife regulations. But you say they're not so much regulations.
They're
They're
how about
rec-
regulations, they're recommend,
and
and recommendations.
Okay.
So. Shall comply with federal and state wildlife regulations and recommendations.
Recommendations and regulations.
Yeah. 'Cause the DNR has recommendations out there, but they won't. The DNR refuses to appear in public. Right. To discuss their recommendations.
So Mike you said, put recommendations and
I would-
followed by regulation.
I would think it, I'd
Yeah.
put it that way, yeah.
Yeah, recommendations, then regulations.
And it seems like they're evolving also. Some of what I've seen, hate to be punny, but they've kind of migrated. And not stayed consistent with, distance like between, active Eagle's Nest. Some I've seen 1
Well,
mile.
at the time the
Some-
project goes, whatever their recommendations are, that's,
They
that,
shall.
they shall.
Yeah, they shall,
So,
no matter where it migrates to.
Yeah.
yep,
On three,
Control that.
on three, I think adequate is subjective. What is adequate? Training or adequate training?
I adequate does not fit, you're right. Uh, Yeah, let's take adequate out of number 3. And just put implementation training as provided to the construction contractor and operations and maintenance staff.
Do we have a shall in there too? And who's gonna provide that? Yeah, I don't know who.
Yeah, I think it's just the implementation training, yeah.
And that's where, and we're still talking about the wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I was just pointing that out. I've seen some people that maybe some type of specification is not bad. It's like, yeah, we trained them. We made them watch a video and they
Well,
took an
that's,
open book
that's what
test.
the training is.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, okay,
that's what it
just
is now.
and
Business is
yeah,
now.
implement training, okay.
Adequate, just.
Implementation of training is provided. Do we need another word in there?
Do you need any of those? Training is provided.
Okay,
yeah,
Training.
training
shall,
shall be provided.
Provided.
Yeah, so instead of adequate implementation, training shall be provided.
okay.
Do we have to specify that's for the wildlife?
No, because it's our, because that's the section, yeah.
Tell the wildlife, it can be an automatic.
Okay.
They can charge the company, they can charge the company to do the training.
With some kind of training. Training, but you are, whatever.
And they've got UX and it should be CX, I think.
Yeah, that is their,
Yeah,
their term. And that would be their further utilities, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4, the coordination between the project developers and the operators. Wildlife agencies, including the Iowa Department of Natural Resources and the Iowa Utilities Board, IUB, is effective and continuous. Wow, just trying to get emails back. from
you know
the
what?
IUB.
I understand that, but let's leave it in there because the Iowa Utilities Board and the DNR, because there are more projects like this, they're gonna have to be more involved.
Other sense of when that time comes.
Yeah,
So under B with on number 1. So local, state and federal regulatory framework that would provide for legal enforcement.
it should. Yes.
Okay, so that's their wildlife mitigation plan. Wildlife monitoring and mitigation plan.
I think we add that in before non-commercial wax.
Right.
As a new section. But we do need a vote on that.
So we make that section
So
7.
make that section 7 and change non-commercial. So do I have a motion and a
Make a
second
motion to do that.
with the changes that we
Put the
went through?
changes that went through.
I'll second that motion.
Section 7.
Are there any other board comments on that? To add that in as
What
section
is
7?
that title gonna be?
The wildlife monitoring and mitigation plan.
There you go.
Okay.
They already have a
Like that
name.
says there.
Yep.
Okay. 11 and.
Yep.
Section 7.
Any other?
We need to change all of those to CWAC.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
I got it. I noted that
Yeah.
already.
So I have a motion. Any other board discussion on that? All in favor of adding in the wildlife mitigation as number 7 and moving non-commercial to section 8. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right,
And just so you know, that will change the numbering on the down.
yeah, yeah,
Just,
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Continue.
which I've marked that also.
All right, and I don't think we had any other changes for non-commercial. I think we were okay with that. So
Before you get
Except
too
that-
far, or someone makes a motion to adjourn, I have.
I'm not gonna do that yet.
Okay, I do have a question for you guys. On the 1,500 foot property line setbacks. Is that from any property line that they don't own? Is it from any non-participating Wex property?
I say from the property line, they don't own.
Okay. Cause I'm thinking that needs to be spelled out
That
more.
does
I
need to be
I came
spelled
back
out.
and looked at that. Because so many of the other ones I've seen are from non-participating, but
But
We've got it built in, they can get a waiver from,
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah. So I think it should be non-owned because with how properties put together, I mean, we have 7 different parcels and, so I just think that's it. And then,
But I'm just saying, so let's say you had 7 parcels and he's your next door neighbor and he has 7 parcels. And if you both were participating when farms,
I think it's non-owning.
non-owned, okay. And you all are,
Is that,
That's fine.
okay,
Yeah, just because they are both in the project doesn't mean that it would be a problem with deciding.
Right.
Specifically.
right. I think with all of these changes and after we get this in, I think next meeting in October should be our public hearing to send this off to the Board of Supervisors. I think we've spent more than enough time on this and it's their turn to decide what they want to do with it. No, it's past a year. We started talking about this before
Oh,
you
yeah.
came on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You-
Was
we
it
did.
March? We started talking about it in March, I think, of last year.
I brought up that we were in need of, starting an ordinance, the Board of Supervisors, we've been back and forth with, what they thought the base ordinance would look like that,
Yeah.
to give you guys just as a starting point. They did put a moratorium in place and the first moratorium, we're past that.
Way expired.
That was the end of May of 23. The first time I showed the draft that the board wanted as a starting point to the commission was the September meeting last year.
So we're
But
already
there was no
13 months.
discussion or anything on that because it was just,
Yeah, yeah, so
New
we're already
information.
13 months into this, 14 months, declare it, it's time, it's past time,
That's past.
it's past time.
So be clear then, are we gonna talk about this first, because we're not completely cleaned up on it.
Yeah. And we're gonna go
And
through it,
then we'll go to the public hearing,
we'll go through it, we'll clean it up as we see fit,
okay?
and that'll be, I would like that to be the final. And we will open it to the public hearing,
After we.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that sounds fine with me.
yes,
okay, so the next one will be
yes,
watermarked final draft.
yes, and 3 minutes per topic for discussion. And only one speaker per each objection, or I'm not gonna, we did this, obviously, it's late. Board members are tired. I don't wanna be here till midnight discussing this. This is a recommendation that we're gonna send to the Board of Supervisors. And we need to invite the Board of Supervisors to sit and listen to
Yep.
what the public has to say. And it's time to get it on their plate. This is,
Yeah.
All right.
And then they'll have their own hearing.
Yep.
Due to
Yeah.
the nature and the size of the meeting, I will and have been looking for an alternate meeting location. The meeting will be on the third Monday in October. And typically in October, we move our meetings to 6 o'clock.
I think we should, because it's gonna be a long one.
So typically we move to 6 o'clock. Yeah, and considering it's gonna be a longer meeting, I would like to see us stick to the 6 o'clock.
So we're looking at October 21st.
Yes. Yeah. So October 21st, 6 p.m. Location will
To
be
be
announced
determined.
hopefully later this week or early next week. The public notice will be in the paper. I have to look at my calendar to see when we send that.
What
Uh,
did you say?
October 21st.
The deadline is 26th. And we have sent it on the 3rd. It'll be published on the 9th and 10th of October in the Macokota paper, custom paper, Bellevue paper. And we will have it on the website in a timely manner. We did not, I mean, we're not required by law, however, we have been doing our due diligence to make sure it's on the website, the agenda. We have been keeping the newest draft. The newest draft was posted online
Which
last
is not required,
Thursday.
which is not required either.
Okay.
So,
I have one quick question. Under penalty here, it says it shall be set forth in ordinance number 281 of Jackson County. Do we need to know what 281 says before we're putting it forward?
that's the penalty zoning.
I think
Right,
it's the
but do we need, I mean, have we discussed that or we're just?
No,
go
we're
with
just
whatever it is?
go, we have to go with
We don't
whatever it
even
is.
know what it says.
did
So
you
we can
guys?
pull it up.
You guys still want me to talk to the county attorney about finding some wording and addressing the fines that are more punitive damage?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, that's
Or
what I'm
excuse me,
saying.
more punitive damage,
Yeah,
But then
gosh,
if we're asking for more and this is already here,
we would have to look at changing that.
right?
Yeah,
but let's wait. I think what we need to do right now is get this to the Board of Supervisors. County attorney needs to give us advice on what the penalties can be, and then we can come back to 281 and add in wind ordinance changes to that.
well,
And-
if we have
We know it's
that
different
ordinance,
things, we
we have
can't
to
send it.
rewrite
Right,
or have it included in this ordinance. We wouldn't have to rewrite it if the damages were reflected in here.
We can, but we can, I think it's better to leave damages in the damages order.
In that order.
In that
Rewrite.
ordinance in 281,
Okay,
and we can amend 281. Based on what the county attorney tells us, and then send it off to the Board of Supervisors for approval. So I want to go through the draft fairly quickly next time. So board members, please look at the packet and be ready to do any changes or discussions on it. Because I want to get that done very quickly so we can get through the public hearing.
Do you want me to do how I did it before? Just mark everything in red
Yeah.
that you guys discussed and put my little editorial in with it?
Yep.
I do work better with that than
Yeah.
with the editor and.
No, that
the sidebar
works.
Comments.
No,
So,
that's okay. Yeah, the word editor can be a little picky on some things. So yeah, let's do that. So, Chris, do you? What? Proofreading and.
Well, yeah, I can do that.
Exactly. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I make the motion for third.
I have a second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
19.
I know. Wait, did you send the updated? Wait. Send it.
Yeah, I can get out to you.
And I can't move until I push the mic out of the way. Okay, go ahead, go.
I thought you're done with this. And if the supervisor would change anything, it's their time. It is their time.
So they have to make the decision and stick their neck out there and they won't come.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of typing.
Get ready for the next one.
Yeah, that's what should be clear.
Glad you joined.
You know, new to the area, I don't know, there was a wind turbine or.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell
Yes. I'm glad you said something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. there it is, that's right.
Start my recording here.
From the left.